Quick question for my earliest subscribers. Do you remember this video?
Least favorite Pokemon.
Ugh, yeah, not one of my proudest works, especially since I owe Jinx a huge apology, as I have now developed a deep and personal hatred for Hisuian Avalugg. But that's a discussion for another time. Point is, that video was kinda bad, as it was just me listing the Pokemon I dislike from each type, while nothing interesting happens in the video. I've come a long way since that video, and have obviously had some opinion shifts, such as the aforementioned Jinx, and even Mawile. But while some of my least favorites of each type have changed throughout the years, a few Pokemon are still some of my least favorites of each type. And one of those Pokemon that was in that cringe video that I still particularly don't care for would be the anteater Pokemon Heatmor. What do I really say about Heatmor that I haven't said in that video? It's just a lame looking Pokemon that is beyond terrible in battle and easily one of the worst fire types. But that's not the worst part about Heatmor, no. It's the fact that its counterpart slash rival Pokemon, Durant, is better than it in every way imaginable. Durant is stronger, faster, bulkier with its typing, cooler, and just blatantly better in every way imaginable. Although Durant is quad weak to Heatmor's Fire Stab, that doesn't mean much when Durant just outspeeds and one-shots Heatmor with a Hustle boosted Stomping Tantrum or Stone Edge. Heatmor and Durant are the prime example I think of when duo Pokemon are brought up, as they excellently capture the main problem with duo Pokemon. One of them is a great Pokemon, while the other is a terrible Pokemon with nothing useful to offer. Let's look at a duo Pokemon like Zangoose and Survivor. Zangoose is actually a great lower tier normal type with a strong attack stat, solid speed, and the toxic boost ability, while Survivor is one of the worst poison types with its low speed and terrible defenses. Another example would be Volbeat and Illumise. Volbeat's Prankster, usable attack stat, and access to Tail Glow allows it to be a lower tier utility mon, while Illumise's terrible attack stat and lack of useful status moves means it can't use Prankster in any meaningful way. And those are just two of the most notable imbalanced duo Pokemon examples. Skarmory is blatantly better than Mantine, Tyrantrum is good while Aurorus is not, and so on and so forth. But it's worth noting that not every duo Pokemon has one be good while the other is terrible. For instance, Nidoqueen, despite being inferior to Nidoking, is not 100% outclassed by Nidoking, as she has some desired traits and features that Nidoking can't pull off. So it's clear that duo Pokemon can in fact be good. The problem is that most of them are imbalanced, and Heatmor is the Pokemon that excellently encapsulates the stigma of duo Pokemon being incredibly imbalanced. Heatmor, while still being my least favorite fire type, could use a few buffs, and since I did a video buffing Durant, by the way, go check that video out if you haven't already, it's only natural of me to buff Heatmor. Similar to the Durant video, I want to start off with Heatmor's stats, and oof, these stats suck. A mixed attacking spread with bad speed and awful defenses? Sure, that HP stat is decent, and the attack and special attack are average, but like, who cares when Heatmor's bulk and speed means it can't use those average offenses? These stats are just bad, and I actually had to consider what stats I wanted to provide for Heatmor. I first considered making Heatmor a slow, monstrous, special attacking Pokemon with average bulk, but that route would result in Heatmor's great physical move pool not being utilized to its fullest potential. I then considered doing the opposite, having Heatmor's physical attack stat be monstrous, because as it turns out, anteaters are actually really strong animals that can cause severe harm. But again, that means those premier special moves aren't being utilized, and considering how good Special Fire Stab with Giga Drain as premier grass coverage, I felt it was a rather risky move to go all physical, in my opinion at least. But after some stat retweaks and brainstorming, I decided to bump Heatmor's base stat total of 484 up to 523 to match Durant's new buffed base stats to retain their rivalry.
Seriously, go watch that video if you haven't already.
Heatmor's new base stat total of 523 will have it now brandish an HP stat of 104, a modest attack stat of 90, a solid defense stat of 95, a respectable special attack stat of 107, an okay special defense stat of 80, and an awful speed stat of 47. Heatmor's awful bulk meant it could never properly utilize its average offenses, while its bad speed stat didn't help much at all either. But with these new stats, Heatmor now flexes a new identity as a fairly bulky Pokemon that survives strong attacks while delivering solid offenses back at the opponent, in addition to now having a niche on Trick Room teams with its terrible speed. Another benefit to these new stats would be how they parallel Durant's stats. While Durant is a fast, frail offensive powerhouse, Heatmor is a slow, bulk-centric damage dealer. And while the new stats are certainly helpful to Heatmor, the abilities Heatmor has don't help it much at all. Of the three abilities, Flash Fire is easily Heatmor's best ability, as it provides the Fire Anteater an immunity to fire moves while further powering its own Fire Stab. Meanwhile, White Smoke and Gluttony are completely useless for Heatmor, as having the ability to not have any stat lowered and eating a berry early, respectively, don't provide Heatmor an ounce of utility in the same way Flash Fire does. So while Flash Fire will stay, White Smoke and Gluttony are going to be thrown in the trash and replaced with Flame Body and Filter. Flame Body makes it to which all contact moves directed at Heatmor will have a 30% chance to burn the opponent. This ability makes Heatmor a tricky Pokemon to deal with, as it will make physical attacking Pokemon hesitant to attack Heatmor out of fear of having their physical attacks power halved. Meanwhile, Filter provides Heatmor extra defensive utility by reducing the power of super effective moves. The ability not only provides extra bulk for Heatmor, but also works thematically for the Fire Anteater. Heatmor's design pulls inspiration from Ironworks elements. More specifically, it pulls inspiration from Ironwork air filters. That's why Heatmor's tail looks like a pipe and it has, penis! Anyways, in addition to having design inspirations from pipes, a few dex entries of Heatmor mentioning its tail drawing in air to turn into fire, essentially filtering a gas into fire energy, Filter provides Heatmor thematic utility that lets it stay in battle for longer. With Flame Body and Filter, Heatmor can now boast impressive defensive utility for a mono fire type, as well as having all of its abilities start with F. You know, the tier Heatmor belongs in. But do you know what doesn't belong in F tier? Heatmor's move pool, which is the only good thing about it. Heatmor's move pool, consisting of Stellar Fire Stab and Flamethrower, Fire Blast, and even its once signature move, Fire Lash, in addition to excellent coverage in Giga Drain, Knockoff, Drain Punch, Scorching Sands, and even Thunder Punch, leaves me in awe at how a Pokemon like Heatmor can have such great coverage and hardly be able to use it. But while Heatmor's current move pool is nothing to scoff at, it could use some new moves that let it stick around for a longer time. And one such move that would allow Heatmor to do just that would be Slack Off, which provides Heatmor a reliable form of recovery that lets it stay in battle longer. And with its time in battle now prolonged, Heatmor can now use moves like Yawn to spread potential sleep, placing the opponent in an awkward position, forcing them to switch out. And when that forced switch happens, Heatmor can use Defog to remove hazards while further referencing its air filter tailpipe. After the hazards are removed, Heatmor can go one of two ways with offense. It could brandish Bulk Up to further power its attack and great defense stat, allowing it to use moves like Iron Tail as a form of steel coverage for fairy and rock types, Leech Life as another form of reliable recovery, and even Fell Stinger to grab a threatening attack boost. But if physical Heatmor is not your preferred offensive style, then I'm sure you would like the new special moves that Heatmor would use after receiving a Charge Beam boost. Since Heatmor learns Thunder Punch, I decided to give it a weak, special electric move, and Charge Beam just so happened to fit that bill right. But I'm getting sidetracked. After Heatmor receives a special attack boost from Charge Beam, it can now use a selection of poison moves ranging from Clear Smog, Acid Spray, and Sludge Bomb, all serving as coverage for fairy types while further referencing Heatmor's air filter abilities. Aside from the poison moves, Heatmor would greatly appreciate Earth Power as a stronger ground type move that can check rock types as well as opposing fire types. But another move that can chunk fire and rock types would be Scald, which also has the plus side of hitting ground types hard while having a nasty 30% chance to burn the opponent. And finally, to round out Heatmor's buffs, I want to provide it Eruption as a powerful fire type move it can launch from its tailpipe when under Trick Room teams. With a new base stat total of 523 that has Heatmor take on a bulkier role, Flame Body and Filter as brand new abilities, and some stellar new moves such as Slack Off, Bulk Up, Charge Beam, Sludge Bomb, Scald, Earth Power, and even Eruption, Heatmor is no longer a garbage fire type, and is instead a great Pokemon that is not 100% outclassed by its counterpart. But those were the buffs I would provide for Heatmor. What did you think about these buffs? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're down there, why not tell me a Pokemon you would like to see me buff next, and consider joining my team by subscribing. It will be really cool and I might just do your request. But until next time, I'll catch you later.